We are on our way to another flyby, which will take place on a very easy date to remember on January 1st, 2019. And it won't be a flyby with a planet like Pluto, it'll be with a small body, one of the building blocks of planets like Pluto, which is a very high scientific priority to try to understand, What
you have just seen is one of the topics I'm going to cover in the video today. An exploding fireball in broad daylight over Russian sky. The fireball explosion is being reported as one of the biggest atmospheric events of 2018, yet it doesn't make it to the mainstream media. Whether it was because of government censorship or simply because the media regarded it as less attractive than social issue, it is our duty to inform you guys of this event, for behind every effect there is a cause. What's up YouTube, it's JT at X-Science again. If you're not from Europe, it's most likely that you did not know of the atmospheric event that transpired on the 21st of June this year. A sonic boom was heard and reported in several Russian cities. Then, a bright fireball appeared in the sky in broad daylight, before exploding and sending its fragments to the ground. This event happens a mere 5 days after a similar fireball exploded over Belgium, which was witnessed by much of Europe. Since 2011, the number of fireballs and meteors entering Earth's atmosphere has been on the rise. This year, the number is well to match or overtake that reported in 2017. Is it normal? Or is it part of a beginning? I'm not sure, but I know the origin of these fireballs will prove interesting, and we will immediately update you guys on it once we learn of something. At roughly the same time on June 29th, a few thousand kilometers to the south in the part of Rab al-Khali Desert near Oman, a rare weather phenomenon temporarily transformed one of the driest places on Earth into a patchwork of countless many lakes that form between the ripples of sand dunes. This was the work of a tropical hurricane that brought torrential downpours to the empty quarter, a place that on average only getting 1 inch of rain every year. The weather phenomenon has not been witnessed for 2 decades, yet in just a few days it completely transformed the landscape. Now comes the serious news. Just in recent times, geologists and emergency management officials told residents of America's Pacific Northwest to make needed preparations for an impending megathrust earthquake in the Cascadia subduction zone. The disaster is to happen, and when it arrives, the number of casualties will likely be tens of thousands, along with extensive damage. As the tectonic plates in the subduction zone slip, one plate, the Fuga Oceanic Tectonic Plate, will slide under the other, the North American Tectonic Plate. The slip pushes the North American Plate eastwards and presses it, which in turn will spring back at some point under pressures, causing a greater than magnitude 9 earthquake. A dreadful mega earthquake for everyone living near the Pacific coast. Should it happen, the northwest edge of the continent will subside by a maximum of 6 feet and will move from 30 to 100 feet westwards, causing disastrous landslides and displacing a huge volume of water. This displaced amount of water will return in less than 50 minutes in the form of a terrifying 700 feet high tsunami. Water will not be the only thing displaced. Around 1 million people will also have to be moved, and another 2.5 million will be in need of emergency supplies, food and water, according to FEMA. Estimations are a minimum of 3 months to restore sustainable powers and 1 year to rebuild infrastructure. Truly an apocalyptic event. Worse, it is long overdue from its 240-year cycle, according to seismologists. On the last days of June, Vancouver Island was hit by 150 tremors, which was monitored by seismologists to determine whether if a slip event has occurred. which would add more pressure to the subduction zone. So far, nothing alarming has been announced, or perhaps, is it not meant to be announced? If you live near the northwest, then by any accounts, be prepared to respond to emergencies if you have not been already. Moving southwards again, to the bottom of the world, in the last week of June, news channel wisely reported that the melting of Antarctic ice shelf had tripled since 1992, making it headlines and warned of an uncontrollable ice collapse that may raise the sea level dramatically, endangering coastal community. The fact that changes are happening in Antarctica is of great import, and it is part of a process from global warming to ice melting and finally to the rise of sea levels. Yet, many people still regard it as fake news, claiming that the ice is melting at its natural rate and that global warming is just a fiction. There's quite a number of bloggers refuting the science behind the events taking place at the South Pole. They believe the polar regions are doing just fine. In my opinion, they are just rolling in the fantasies and ignoring decades of data, observations, and analysis that establish the factor basis for the extensive case of the unnatural ice melt. On June 13th, when the Arctic story first made the news, What's Up About It, a site of deniers, posted some controversial reports on the latest study on Antarctica, which was published in the science journals among the top-ranking academic publications of the world. The farce began with a pitiful effort to shy away from reality by claiming that despite the acceleration, the part that melt was only a small part of the continent, which was insignificant. This argument is flimsy, and it was based on personal misinterpretations of the size of the reported melting, rather than the continuous progress of breaking down that was happening there and its consequences. The actual text of the ice melt was also from a separate report from June 14th. Sensing their failure, these deniers again tried to establish that the Antarctic ice sheet had survived conditions that was 2 or 3 degrees warmer than what we have today. But this contradicts the fact that the ice cap is already melting at only 1 degree warmer, and it is being reported. Not to mention the 2 or 3 degrees warmer period they used as an example was during the Pliocene era, a misleading report. But not giving up, these people tried again with some graphs that dated 17 years ago from a 2001 study, which showed that a few degrees of warming in the past have failed to trigger any large-scale ice melt within an hour. Note that within an hour. There is where they miss the point, and instead interpret it as the ice sheet would survive several degrees of warming. It is these people whose attempts to twist the facts and deny science brought confusion and distrust to other people. Cherry-picking an outdated studies in 2001 and then trying to argue that the sea levels are not rising based on some flimsy arguments is not the way of science. A climate change skeptic by the name of Paul Homewood wrote a piece recently in which he attempted to cast confusion about correlation between the Antarctic meltdown and the rising sea levels by using another outdated chart from 18 years ago. This person claimed that the sea levels are already rising, but that Antarctica has nothing to do with it. Of course, he provides no explanations about where the rising water originated or the principal cause in it. Yet, he claims any future melt that occurs on the Arctic continent will play no roles in rising seas. So he is a denier that tries to ride 2 bikes at once, all the while trying to persuade you to believe in outdated and inconsistent with present-day reality statements. That's just how the deniers of science operate, chiefly based on either outdated, inconsistent, or outright irrelevant information. I think they fool themselves with their own misinterpretations of information just as much as they try to rope you into it.
Hello everyone, this is JT with X-Science 2018. Most of it are interested in and probably quite familiar with the ideas of wormholes, stargates, or whatever you want to call them. The idea of moving to another side of the universe in the blink of an eye or time traveling has been capturing the humans' imaginations and popular cultures for quite some time. And what if we tell you that these portals are actually not so far-fetched? Are we alone in this universe? Has long been puzzling not only the scientific communities but also the general public. Many evidence to seem to support the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations ranging from unidentified flying objects to claim of having been visited by creatures nothing like us or having seen secret bases. There are even people claiming that they have been abducted and received implants. Some of these cases were even confirmed by medical personnel. But there are people who say that Earth is on the edge of the Milky Way and the closest star system is already many light years away. So why these aliens, if they do exist, even bother to visit Earth? Why would Earth be of any particular interest of these advanced civilizations? Allow us to suggest a theory. What if these visitors are not beings from outer space, but it is we humans ourselves or a later stage in our evolution that come back to visit and study the current us? The bottom line of all the debates is, however, how do these aliens or future Earth inhabitants get here? In the case of beings from the other planet, like we said before, the closest star system is already many light years away, and these civilizations must come from places hundreds or even hundreds of thousands of light years away. If it were our future selves, the issues of time traveling is even more troublesome. Here is where the ideas of portals or wormholes or stargates or however you would like to call it comes in handy. Recall the ideas from me, the Robinsons, Star Trek, the Avengers, whatever you can't remember. These portals are a way to travel through the vastness of space in a blink of an eye, or backward and forward in time at will. They bend the fabric of space-time and link places light years or time years away together. And these holes turn out to be not just a superhero movie creations, they do actually exist. Back in 2012, NASA released the finding that they have discovered hidden portals present in the Earth's magnetic fields. NASA-funded researchers Jack Scudder, a plasma physicist at the University of Iowa, found these portals the X-point, also known as electron diffusion regions. These points, explain Scudder's, places where the magnetic fields of the Earth and the magnetic fields of the Sun are connected. They create an uninterrupted path from Earth to the atmospheres of the Sun, which is 93 million miles away. To put that in simpler terms, there are portals connecting the Sun to the Earth, and if we are able to find those portals and somehow manage to go through them, we can travel 93 million miles in the blink of an eye. Now, imagine the possibilities of going from one X point to another. Surely it is more weird than science fiction that we have to find many portals and go through each of them to get to our final destination rather than in one hop. It would still open up a whole new world of virtually unlimited possibilities. We might even be able to find the mysterious Planet 9 after 5 minutes of hopping. Speaking of which, you can find out more about Planet 9 or Planet X in one of our previous videos. Observation by NASA's Themis spacecraft and Euro clusters probe suggest that these portals open and close many times every day. They are typically located a few tens of thousands of kilometers from the Earth. This is where the Earth's geomagnetic fields and onrushing solar wind met. Tons of energetic particles flow through the opening of these portals and heat up the upper atmospheres of the Earth, sparking geomagnetic storm and igniting the bright polar auroras. Most of these portals are short-lived. This is of course exactly how we would expect them to be and also how science fiction depicts them. They are materialized at the moment that we would need them, and as we exit them into another regions of space and time, they would close, or maintaining them would require some big amount of energies and most likely a giant sky beam. However, there are natural portals that are vast and stainless as well. At the time announcing this amazing discovery, NASA also announced it was planning the magnetospheric multi-scale missions, or MMS for short, due to launch in 2014 in order to study this phenomenon. The mission actually did launch in 2015, which means it had been there in space for approximately 3 years by now. When you think about it, the existence of these space-time portals makes sense. All of the UFO sightings and signs in the sky must be coming from somewhere. So have a look at this short clip we are showing you here. You can see a little white objects flying all above us, and the thing is, they are not coming from a long track from a vastness outside at all. Instead, all these seems to be portal things open and close, and these white objects seems to come out. And take also a look at this video. These videos are infrared footage taken from NASA's STS missions, and they show that there seems to be a whole buzzing swarms of these magnetic portals, and the hardware of objects seems to come out from them. You will also see one of these objects after appearing out of the portals seems to fly down toward the Earth, then lock himself into a position and rotate with the Earth. So you see, it all makes sense. All of these portals open and close all the time, and all of the UFO sightings and strange sky phenomena are also not so far-fetched at all. They are happening all over the Earth's atmospheres, and NASA has been up there for almost 3 years now in search for them. The only problem is that finding these portals is not always easy. They are unstable and elusive, and like we have said it before, most of them open and close in a blink of an eye. Fortunately, scholars has found signposts that can lead us to them. Like we said, these portals are where two magnetic forces field, meet and touch. There are jet of charged particles propelling from them, creating electron diffusion regions. Scott has been looking at the data from NASA's Polar spacecraft, which spent years in the Earth's magnetosphere. It must have encountered many exploits during its missions. He has found 5 simple combinations of magnetic fields and energetic particles measurements that can tell when a spacecraft comes across an exploit. A single member in the spacecraft of MMS constellation encountering the exploit can alert the whole constellation. Unfortunately, the work of the MMS has been secretive. It will come as no surprise though if they have already found some of these portals or have even traveled through one. I mean, what is the point of finding a space-time portal without taking at least a sneak peek at the other side? Who knows what out of this world discoveries they are making right up above us. So the discovery of this portal is, well, monumental. It's like missing link for all the visit and the signals that we have been and are receiving from extraterrestrials, civilization, or our own future selves. And it can be a missing link taking us one step further into conquering the vastness of outer space or traveling through the flow of time. The evidence is unlimited, and as time goes by, we discover more and more of them.
Not long ago, planetary scientists from the California Institute of Technology made a startling announcement on an equally startling matter. They found something that could have explained a perplexing astronomical mystery, that is, our Sun has still 6 degrees to its equator. What's up, YouTube? It's JT at X Science again. This time, I'm bringing you another piece of information that has much to do with the mysterious Planet X, as well as some portraits of the recent change in the water circulation across the globe. Let's start by getting back to the announcement that I mentioned at the start of the video. According to the analysis of California Institute of Technology planetary scientists, a massive presence within our solar system has still the Sun as well as other planets. The planets in our solar system, including the Earth, orbit on a flat plane within a few degrees of one another, respective to the Sun, known as the ecliptic plane. With the tilt, however, the Sun is not aligned the way it should be on this plane. Why this change? The Sun is the most massive object with the most gravitational pull within not only our system, but also in the vast swath of space between our system and the closest neighbor, assuming there is nothing else in that space. This means there should be nothing big enough to affect the balance of the Sun. There are many theories on the cause of the tilting, including a suggestion of an imbalance in the mass of the Sun's core. But the theory that grabbed the most attention is that our Sun is orbited by an undiscovered massive planet that is more than 10 times the size of the Earth and has a precarious orbit called a retrograde movement. With this kind of orbit similar to that of a comet, depending on its position related to the Sun, that existence can create from little to a tremendous impact on our solar system. An astronomer named Percival Lowell actually predicted the existence of another planet beyond Neptune. According to his calculation, the only way for Neptune and Uranus to have their present orbits is the existence of another large planet out of sight in the far reaches of our solar system, with enough gravity to interfere with the two gas giants. Lowell also named the odd entity Planet X in 1906, and continues to pursue the elusive planet until his death in 1916. Then, in 1930s, astronomer Clyde Tombaugh announced the discoveries of Pluto at the Flagstaff, Arizona observatory. The planet was discovered in just about the precise location where Lowell calculations has determined Planet X to be, but it was too small to cause a disturbance in the orbits of Neptune, let alone Uranus. And in 2006, it was reclassified as a dwarf planet. Back to the present. The collections of evidence that a giant presence is waiting to be discovered in the cold darkness of space beyond Neptune is growing. Which evidence? The very abnormal changes whose number relentlessly increased in the recent years and still escalating. So what would happen as the unknown planet closes in? On one hand, we have the more normal possibilities, that is, natural events, that includes volcanoes and earthquakes, extreme weather, and unprecedented solar activities. On the other hand, we may face rare and unusual events that happen only once in thousands or millions of years. For example, a shift in the Earth's axis, a mass melting of polar cap, and last and most terrifying, a shift in the magnetic poles. Anything of these events would have overwhelming impact on the social, economic, and political structure of humanity, akin to what described as the apocalypse in many religions. Maybe it's time to start writing epic chronicles and bury them so that maybe one day in the far future, our succeeding generations can have some cool story from a mysterious ancient civilization. Enough with the unknown space. Now let's go over some recent events on Earth that was part of many changes happening in our time. First, let's have a look at this impressive footage from Brazil, where intense flash floods hit some areas, including Belo Horizonte, sweeping away dozens of vehicles. According to civil defense authorities, in the span of only 20 minutes, the region received half of its average historical monthly rain. Meanwhile, hailstorms are becoming more and more a frequent occurrence. Like torrents or inundating rains, they leave a part of destruction in their wakes, so the more frequent they become, the more serious of a threat they pose. On March 18th, a powerful hailstorm swept across several counties in Texas. These rare satellite images from the NOAA showed the extent of the haystack that was left behind by severe storm across this region. The two bands shown above present the amount of hail lying on the ground as observed from space. On the upper right is a sequence of hail occurs as indicated by the radars, while on the lower right are the tracks from stronger rotating storm. This photo from Twitter shows a large hail striking Texas cities of Carwell and Vaco. This video compilation shows a time-lapse on the supercell that moved into the region, followed by the immense hailstorm that produced baseball-sized hail. As immense as the hail that fell in north-central Texas was, the hailstorm that struck in northern Alabama on March 19 was truly terrifying. It virtually destroyed everything in its path, with hail the size of softballs crashing down on cars and buildings, smashing through windows and causing ceilings to collapse. Watch this footage from the city of Coleman and Madison County, Alabama, to see the intensities of the hailstorm.